What's up, guys? This is Adrian Mohnacs, and I have done $20,000 in automation fulfillment for clients over the past 30 days. Now, client acquisition and lead generation is one thing, but managing these projects and making sure that everybody who shows up to work with you has a great experience and that you're organized from day one is an entirely different challenge. So what I want to do is walk you through an automation that I use inside of my own company that takes clients from ClickUp, gets their Drive assets, specifically Google Drive assets, created and associated with that client the moment that they're onboarded inside of your organization. Now, this is fairly simple, but you can see where this goes. When somebody joins your company or you start providing a service for them, you can start with a Google Drive folder, but this can very quickly expand into proposal documents, service agreements, collaboration documents, what I call impact filters, documents that you and the client can work through together to make sure that everybody is happy and excited to start work. And I plan to get into these in future videos, but who am I to talk about this? My name is Adrian Mohnacs. I've been an entrepreneur for about 5 years, a software engineer and CTO for 12. And right now I lead Rock Studios, which is one of the leading AI automation service providers for marketers and e-commerce brands. And what we do is we work with people and make sure that they can reduce the amount of time spent less on task and simultaneously increase their output for client and revenue generating activities so they can make more sales, get more customers, and ultimately grow their business. I've worked with some really incredible people, and now I'm bringing this service of AI automation to the best and brightest business owners. So I hope you're excited for this one. We're just going to jump right onto my computer screen back there. Let's talk about what we're actually going to design, because there is really no point in just walking through the steps of an automation without understanding what our end objective is and what exactly this is solving inside of our business. So the first thing is understanding what are we building, okay? And what context does this construction take place inside of? So first of all, I really like to operate from this place of the AI operating system. There really is no point of just having one piece of software without a greater context that it operates within. Think about your computer or your iPhone. If all it was applications without the desktop, a keyboard, a microphone, a mouse, you really wouldn't be able to use it. So first of all, AI is the hotness. We want to talk about the brain behind all of this. And we don't want to have to talk to it and type into the keyboard every time. So we want to have an automation. In order to have high quality automations, we need data. Okay, this is like a database, a store of state. And then finally, you want to have a beautiful front end. And the way this really works is we want to have our AI output fed to the front end. The front end updates data. The data is automated through our system and it updates the AI. So this basically means every time that we go through an iteration of this software, it's going to learn. So what exactly are we going to build today? I mentioned it in the introduction, but basically what we're doing is we are automating project management. And more specifically, what we want to talk about is asset creation. Asset creation and organization. That's what it's really good for, because throughout our day, there are tasks that take 1 minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever. And over the course of a week, these sometimes stack up to an hour or multiple hours. So really what happens is when I close a client, they need a few things. They need a Google Drive, and they need some docs, and they need a proposal. So all we really want to talk about today is the Google Drive portion. So let's keep going with this example. When we close a client, what we want to do is update them inside of ClickUp. When a ClickUp task is created, this is our trigger. We want to create a drive. We want to share the drive. And then we want to update the same ClickUp ticket. Now, this looks a little complicated, or not complicated, but maybe a little confusing. So what we're going to do instead is put the little trackpad away and just build it right here with you. So I've done this before in make.com. Maybe I can even show you what that looks like. You see, I work with a lot of clients, so I've got a lot of different automations set up, a lot of different things built. So let me see if I can find it inside of our internal. There we go. So it's turned off now. But when we look at this automation, it is a very linear process. Maybe we need to set some variables. And in this example, I automatically create a Slack channel for us. So as we go through this, let's go ahead and get started, okay? What we want to do is come in here and, of course, create a ClickUp trigger. We want to connect our account. All that's really done with is just the Google authentication. You just click and your current account is going to be available. So it looks like we have an entire team name. Now that comes with lots of lists. It comes with lots of spaces, but let me show you exactly how we have this organized. So again, my name's Adrian Mohnacs, and at Rock Studios, I'm the founder, project manager, head engineer, and what I do is work with clients to automate parts of their business, specifically the marketing inside of their business. And whenever I get a client, I really want to onboard them in a way that is providing value from the moment they really send money over or sign a contract. So when I'm working with clients, I basically have a dashboard of leads here. Okay, you can see that I'm organized. I'm not making this up. I'm not just learning. Okay, I actually do have a fully functioning business. And what happens is I will come over here. When we close a client, we will duplicate it. And when we duplicate it, we move them over to the actual client's board. And we're not going to do that just yet, but when we look at the client's board, you'll see here that every client has an amount, has a ticket amount for the work that we're doing, a link to our conversation, and the Google Drive. And so instead of going over here and creating all of these milestone documents and meeting notes and creating these one at a time, I just want it to happen the moment that something is populated here. We are going to basically do it somewhere else. Okay, we're going to create that folder all on its own. So what we basically want to do is watch the list. We want to narrow this down. And it's unfortunate that we don't have an option to just select the list from a field. But the way that a lot of these are commonly structured is there is an ID up here. Now, I'm assuming it'll be this ID. Because it's a hierarchical structure, I imagine this is the folder or the space. This is our particular list, and then this is the view. So let's go ahead and click at leads, and we'll see what values change. And it looks like really only the PR value has changed. Let's do it one more time to be sure. I was wrong. It was the value here in the middle. So this is our list ID. One more time. 69018. There we go. The second half of the numbers changes. So we'll come over here. We'll add that there. Execute steps. And this is where it really starts to get exciting, is when we're working with things that aren't necessarily working. We get to see where we really start to get to see how this system works. So let's remove some of these extraneous values. This could be related to the view. And so that seems to work. So now we're listening for an event. So let's go ahead and go to the clients board, which is, remember, the one that we're watching. And let's just create a test event, one in onboarding. So what we'll do is we'll just say test, save. And now if we go over, we should have this populated with some data. Fantastic. Let's go through and look at this to see that it does make sense. Schema, okay, history items, task ID, team ID. So now we actually want to get all of the details of the task, because what happens a lot with these events is it's just going to pull in high level data, more specifically just an identifier. So let's just keep going. What we want to do, of course, is just type in the app that we're using, and then we just want to type in task, and at the top, of course, it will say get a task. This one will be easy. Our integration is already there, and we just need to get rid of all this extra information and drag our task ID over. We already have this, and let's execute the step. Great. So this is pretty basic data. You see, like parent, due date, time spent, and custom fields are empty. We're really going to be leaning heavily on these custom fields to name the project we're working on and identify where we're going to place the new link. We don't really need it so much, but when we start to understand the role that it plays, it'll really help with adding on to this later. So we're going to save this, of course, and we're going to pin it, of course. Okay. Save it. Great. So can't discard. And we're going to pin it. And what the pinning does is it just saves it in the test environment. When we go live, it'll actually run through the entire pipeline. But this right here is just going to allow us to move things forward quickly without having to get new information if that costs money or extra API tokens or anything. And a little known fact is you want to pin every step, because even when you click to just run one state towards the end of the automation, it will actually run every step in sequence. So now that we have all of our task information, let's go ahead into Google Drive. And if you guys need more information on how to actually do the authentication for Google Drive, go ahead and ask me. That is actually something that is a bit complicated. And great, we actually have that connected, and all we really want to do is move the name of the task. Usually I like to name the task over something unique, like a car name. You saw it said Aventador earlier, to just get it off the top of your head, and then it'll have an actual name of the project. Aventador QA chatbot for training academies. And let's find out where we actually want to have it placed. We have the right drive chosen. Okay, maybe we need to go here, double check that we have the right auth chosen, my drive. Okay, so I guess we're going to get it this time. What happens when you're working with Google Drive specifically? You're only allowed to have so many projects created with specific API keys. Okay, you're only allowed to have 2 applications accessing a single Google Drive project. So I've unfortunately kind of exceeded that. I've shared keys across multiple ones, and I've deleted some old ones. So I need to update this. So let me do that. I'll be right back. Okay, great. We've got our Google authentication figured out. And now what we want to do is search for the project. So what's our root folder? We wanted to type in clients. I work with a lot of estimators in construction, do a lot of freelancing stuff, and that's the create folder step. We can come in here, execute step. We have the pin data here. So that's good. We want to come back here, and after every step, we really want to confirm. Okay, this is part of like good development practices. There we go. Test is down at the bottom. Let's delete that, because we'll recreate it again in a second. And let's come back to where we were. Boom, done. the folder's created. Now, the issue with Google Drive when you first create a folder is it's made to stay private, okay? Let's move this over here. And so now what we want to do is go back into Google Drive and we want to share it so that way when we create this folder, it's really accessible to everybody. Not everybody on the web, but everybody inside of our organization that has access to it. Okay, because we don't want to have to go back in and manage this again, we want to just have the link available inside of our ClickUp dashboard. So folder, operation, share, and then we want to put the link in here. We may get an issue because remember we deleted the folder. Okay, as I expected. Bad request, check your parameters. You know, we can really go in here and we can scroll down, but you want to see this is the code behind the scenes. But really, you can just see what's going on. Check your parameters. So let's go back to the previous step, create this folder. Okay, still have a problem with parameters. Let's see what we're working with. It may not be the right folder parameter. So we can go folder, file or folder. Okay, there we go. So what the actual thing that was missing is we actually need to have a share level added here. Because if we just click share and then the folder ID, nothing will really happen. So great. Let's see. Permission, anyone with link. So we are missing a step here. We are missing the actual link to the folder. Because remember, we want to have it as a parameter for our folder. So let's go ahead and do Google Drive. And if we could do, you know, if there's like a get folder option here, create a folder, delete a folder, share a folder. And so what we want to do is search for a file and folder, because what this is going to do is actually give us the name, okay? And I don't really expect there to be any sort of, right? We don't want to get into that right now. We want to keep this simple. So let's see what happens if we just search for the name. There it is. And so actually what it looks like is we don't have the ability to explicitly get the share link. When we come into make.com, you're going to see that there is a node that says get share link. See, there we go. Get a shared link. So what we actually need to do is, again, reverse engineer how this is created. Okay, so this is our file ID. I hope you guys can see this. And then there literally is just a static URL here. Okay, so if I was to go and actually share this folder, share, it should already be publicly shared. There we go. Copy link, and let's look at what this link looks like. Okay, USP sharing. So we couldn't see it down there. But you see, it is just https drive.google. Great. So now we want to create a variable. We have all of the information we needed. We don't even need this search step. And so when we talk about variables, we're talking about a text value that we can create inside of our app that can be reused. And so usually they call them fields inside of n8n. And so manual mapping, customized with output. So we're going to add a field, and what we're going to call this is access link. And so it should just be as easy as dropping this here, and then we're going to copy this link down to the end, and it will append it to the end of this. And so let's close this, and we'll get a preview here. That looks pretty great compared to the site we were looking at. If you notice, there's a little bit of a space here. If we have any white spaces in a URL, it's going to cause us problems. So we got this going, all right? And let's execute step. And so what we're hoping for is if we copy this link, go to the next tab, it'll be our drive. Perfect. So we've got our variable. I don't think we need to save that. So now let's just update our ClickUp item. And so we want to do update. Now we actually want to see if there is update custom fields. Because in ClickUp, there's a distinction between fields and custom fields. Set custom fields on a task. Perfect. So now that we're here, let's take a look. Task, set a custom field, task ID. So we actually need to execute up until this step. Okay. Okay, not true. We actually need to connect it. Let's open that up again. And we should be able to just pull from that very first node that we have. Looks like there is an error in operations. So let's delete this link and let's run to this field right here. And what this will do is give us the recent values that we can tap into. There we go. So again, get a task. We have the ID. And let's see what the field ID is. Okay, creator, assignees, checklist, custom fields. And you see every custom field has a unique ID. But let's look at the name. The name we're looking for is, URL, drive URL. I don't really remember. So we have budget, category, location, industry. See, I'm working with people all over the place, so I got to stay organized. So Google Drive URL. So let's go ahead and update this field. And what's the value going to be? The value is going to be our access link. So let's just run this, make sure that it works, make sure that I am in focus. Execute step. And it looks like the node was successful. Let's go back to our Upwork task. And when we go here, there is our drive. So let's do it for real now. Okay. We want to go back and we want to confirm how exactly is this going to run. Now, we did whenever a new task is created. Okay. And let's look at the little lightning bolt. The little lightning bolt means that it's reactive. So let's turn this to a live project. Got it. And now we're going to actually go through this from start to finish, keeping an eye on the executions. One of the big things when you're working with these workflows is to actually pay attention to all the things that are happening and what successive runs are going to give you. Okay, now that it's live, we don't need to worry about the pinned values. I could be wrong here, but let's see what happens. So what we want to do is we are going to come to leads. And I am going to basically come over to one and we're going to pretend, actually we're not pretending, we're going to do this for a client that I signed this week. It's going to say email. Let's ignore that. And basically what I'm going to do for this client is cold email automation, warm up, and replies go to Hype Drive. So this should be the name of our folder. Okay, we have a date that it was created. This is actually the close date because in our business we track when a lead started and when they were closed. Any unique identifiers we need here, this is the link to our conversations. This is the proposals we send over. And what we'll do is we'll just come here. Nope, don't want to look at dependencies. But what we'll do is actually duplicate. We'll go to leads. No, not in the marketing. And we'll go to clients. And we'll duplicate. So now we'll give it actually just a couple of seconds to work. And then we should be able to go to our folder and see all the information that's valuable to us. Down here at the bottom, seeing a couple test folders. So let's go back to our automation. Okay, great. We've got the new run here right at the top. And let's look at these values. What I'm worried about is that they were pinned. But actually, we should just be able to go to clients. And in our onboarding state, there will be a new one. It says test. Email automation warm-up replies go to Drive. And it looks like our folder wasn't actually created and saved here. So let's go ahead and do some troubleshooting, right? We can actually come in here, look at these values. There's our access link. Is this a real folder? Because see, now what we want to do is do our troubleshooting, right? We want to reverse engineer everything that we're doing. And I'm hoping to see some more information, look at each step, and see what's missing. Okay, so we have our folder here. Okay, cold email, it's shared, showing up in the same place. So when we look here, why isn't this showing up? Let's look at the property names. Because remember, we want to pay extra special attention to our data values. Now, these are likely saved under a different property name than what I'm expecting. I probably chose the wrong ones. So Google Drive URL. Let's go back to the automation and make sure that our property names line up. So we want to go back to our task and look at what we have here, custom field 13. Fun fact, on the side, you can see a little bit more. Google Drive URL. Open it up. And there it is. It's actually visible. It's just not showing up on the right view. So guys, this was basically the full automation for doing this. What I'm going to do is make this accessible to everybody who's watching this video. Make this accessible to everyone watching the video. And if you are a business owner, I basically do free consultations to help educate everyone on how they can use this kind of AI automation in their video. My name's Adrian Mohnacs. I have a lot of experience doing this, and I really hope to hear from you soon. Thanks.